Hi everyone, and welcome to the fourth tutorial on what can be seen in NES Health Bioenergetic WellNES system scan. And today we will be covering one of my favorite subjects. And I know that every time I say this is my favorite and this is my favorite, but this subject or topic of energetic immunity fascinates me every time I work with this scan because it is complex, but it's incredibly interesting just to look at a different model of the immune system in addition to the conventional model that most of us are familiar with. So hopefully you will find it also very interesting, and let me know if you have any questions. And because it's a little bit more complex than the previous topics, I decided to prepare a small visual for you, so hopefully it will be a little bit easier to grasp, okay? So putting my glasses on, and let's start. So it's energetic immunity we're talking about today. So most of us are familiar with the conventional model of immune defense, right? So there is an existence of a defense army, so to say. This is the white blood cells, lymphocytes, macrophages, basophils, eosinophils, and so on. And what they do, they eat pathogens up when they come in contact with the body and they create antibodies. We all know that, right? So this is a very classic model, and it has its own place, of course. But the problem is that this model doesn't explain the fact why certain pathogens, or pathogens in general, prefer certain parts in the body rather than others. Let's take influenza virus, for example. Why it likes nose, throat, and lungs, and doesn't reside, let's say, in the small intestine or a big toe or on the skin somewhere, and so on. Also, the classic model of immunology doesn't explain the fact that in the same environment, several people being exposed to the same pathogens, there will be those who develop a disease and others who will not. How come? So in the year 2010, Professor Peter Fraser, who was the clinical originator of NES system, he after years, decades of clinical research and practical testing, he made quite a breakthrough based on the premise that actually there are two types of disease. One is the disease that changes the physical molecular structure of the body, and usually this is caused by biochemical pathogens and viruses, bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and so on. And usually this type of disease is acute when you develop acute symptoms of raising in the temperature, some sort of cough, a runny nose, all those symptoms of the actual flu, right? And the symptoms are very real. So we can observe that the patient actually has a disease. But then there is another type of the disease, which is purely energetic distortion to the body field. And he was the pioneer in finding that. And again, those energetic distortions, they can be caused by biochemical pathogens, the real pathogens, but it also can be caused by what is called energetic terrains. And I will explain about that a little bit later. And usually these type of distortions are virtual and chronic. And what it means is that sometimes the pathogen is not there, but the symptoms are still there, and the onset of the symptoms is very slow, and the disease is sort of slow progressing and becomes chronic, okay? Interestingly enough, he found out that those two types of disorders, they operate by two completely different mechanisms. One is the chemical immune system mechanism, and another one is energetic immune system mechanism, okay, chemical and energetic. More than that, it was found that the body's energetic immune system drives the chemical immune system. He found that the chemical reaction lies at the very end of the very long chain of informational energetic events in the body. okay? So his understanding of the deeper aspects of the body's ability to defend and repair itself was based on years and years of his clinical observations with his own patients. And what he was describing to us is that, for example, the patient would come to his clinic and present like very common symptoms of pathogenic activity in the body. He would refer the patient to the comprehensive pathology tests, and usually in 99%, those tests would come back as negative. But in the meantime, the patient would present all those symptoms of not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, very tired, digestive disturbances in the body, like migraines, headaches, you know, all those, and usually without temperature, actually without the fever. And usually it would be slow onset of the symptoms, right? But they would be chronic. Another pattern that he put attention on, that usually those types of symptomatic representations would go on for a certain period of time. Then it will be a point of remission, and then they will repeat themselves. And the cycle will go on and on and on. So basically, the modern sort of conventional microbiology model, right, is that microorganisms reproduce inside the body. And to do so, they use a genetic mechanism that involves the break in the hydrogen bonds of the RNA. But those hydrogen bonds appears to link directly to the body field structure. Here is the link between the biochemical process and the energetic process. So basically, in other words, what Peter Fraser was telling us is that there is a real bug, and then there is a picture of a bug in space, which is less real, right? But in fact, it's almost like an energetic signature or energetic structure in space. So he came up with the description of the energetic terrain terminology, which basically occur in the energetic field of the body rather than the physical field of the body. So this creates energetic distortions in the body field. So we're talking about the energetic component that distorts the human body field. But don't forget that there is also, of course, the physical component that might distort the human body field, right? So for the purpose of this tutorial, we will be looking at the energetic errors in the body field rather than the physical errors in the body field, which are created in the presence of the real pathogen. So those energetic errors happen when the energy field passes through DNA structure of the cells. So Peter was telling us that those are very tiny energetic structures, and they were found to upset the body field in not lesser way than the real actual pathogens, usually actual pathogens do. But also, interestingly enough, the human body field itself can produce energetic patterns that resemble real pathogens, like viruses, bacteria, etc. So can you imagine? It's almost like dealing with the phantom disease, not the actual disease. It's almost like energetic structures of non-existing pathogens. So I had to give you a little bit of history here, how it all was developed and how he came to them, how he created those energetic terrains and did his matching experiments. So you understand a little bit more when we go into the actual scan. So what are the terrains? So basically, the terrains are the landscape, so to say, of the body. Okay, so basically those energetic errors that we were talking about before happening on the level of the energy field in the body, and in NES we refer to them as energetic terrain or the landscape of the body. It's actually intracellular environment inside the body, which can host information and cause energetic distortions, real energetic distortions, which eventually result in a disease. So the question is how we can correct those energetic distortions. So since 19th century, we started to do it with antibiotics, but antibiotics attack the real bacteria, not so much of the virus, as you know, and fungi. But it was working, and it still works sometimes. But this conventional medicine model never considered the terrain itself. So basically, it was attacking or targeting the real pathogen, but not the environment around where the pathogen would thrive. And especially with chronic ailments, the symptoms of the pathogenic activity would reoccur even after the treatment of antibiotics, right? So with NES energetic terrain correctors, which are ETs in pharmaceuticals, we call them, we are correcting the environment where pathogens reside, making the environment less appealing to them. So they don't find it comfortable anymore and they leave. So the idea is that the terrain hosts information of a specific pathogenic activity, causing the body react to it as a real pathogen, still like almost active there. But sometimes the disease could be phantom, symptoms of the disease, but not actually the actual pathogen's activity in the body. So using these ET correctors, it allows us to correct the errors in the body field, not only where the pathogen is still present, but very often, and it's very, very important, that even when the pathogen is already gone. For example, with the flu, we all are familiar with like after flu effects of excessive tiredness, some remaining symptoms of long-term cough and some congestion in the lungs and in the throat. But the flu, the virus, if you go to the laboratory and check for the virus or the pathogen is gone, but the body, the immune system still attacks the tissues and the organs as if the pathogen is still there. So those energetic correctors actually help us to deal with the after flu effect of the body. So in order to look on all these sort of in more details, just wanted to show you also the picture of those energetic correctors, or in pharmaceuticals, most of you are familiar with that, but those are just mineral water with imprinted information, right? So in the case of the energetic terrains, it would be the corrective information of the pathogen, but not the real pathogen sitting there, okay? It will be almost like the pictures of what the normal body should look like, what the normal immune system should look like. But they are made, those energetic correctors, they are made from the body's own correctors. And I think I find it extremely incredible. That's like, that's why we get transformational results really with NES in pharmaceuticals, because they're not foreign, the correctors are not foreign to the body. And the same with my health device, by the way, the frequency is imprinted in the device, because it's just another way of sending the correct information, right? They are taking from the frequencies of our own, of our bodies, not the foreign frequencies like electromagnetic fields frequencies, other magnetic and electric frequencies from the environment, and so on. So now let's actually look at the real scan. So let me just go back and stop the share. And now I can share the scan. Okay, so this is the energetic immunity screen. You remember we spoke about energy source, energy strength, energy flow, the flow of information from one place to another in the body. And today we are talking about energetic immunity, right? So on the left, you can see here all the results that came up for this particular scan. And if you remember, purple means high priority, where body really asks for support. Orange is less priority, but still a priority. And green, yellow, and white is less priority. Okay, so when the scan shows priority on the ET screen, what it means is that it's energetic damage in a way which happens on the microscopic level, very tiny structure of the energy structure of the body. It also shows that there is a healing process happening in the body. So each ET, it's actually notification or a signal where exactly in the body healing happens. Okay, so so basically it shows the organ or tissue where the healing is happening, but it also shows what the body is healing from, because it could be healing from environmental toxicity, chemicals like pesticides, herbicides. It could be healing from emotional trauma and stress. The body could be healing from lack of nutrition, let's say, not enough energy, geopathic stress, and so on. So basically each one of those parameters on the scan shows the organ it affiliates with, or organs, and the pathogens or triggers that basically trigger the body to initiate a healing response. So let's look, for example, this is orange priority on that scan. So it means that the healing is happening in energetic errors, and the healing happening in those stations, in the station of the midbrain, thalamus and medulla, auditory nerves. Okay, some healing is happening on that level, in the area of the heart, in the area of the kidneys, and in this area of the body. Okay, and what it shows to us that it's a central nervous system healing. Okay, at the moment, and generally speaking, it could be due to long-term childhood viruses. Again, don't forget that we can talk now about the child having a real childhood virus at the moment, or it could be an adult presenting with some request for repairing the error in the central nervous system due to long-term childhood virus activity in the body. Okay. You can see we have 3 immune parameters here on the screen, and they are all to do with poor or weak immune system. But the difference between them, and they usually, first of all, all 3 of them attack bone marrow, and there are immune cells which are in the digestive tract and all around the body. You know that in our GI tract alone, 90% of the immune cells have their activity there. But the difference between them, that the reason for that to ask for support is different. For example, for immune 1, it's usually some pathogenic activity with long-term incubation periods and persistent infection. Okay. For immune 2, it could be something that is related to like weak immune system function, especially involving heavy metals. So if for example, this one lights up on the screen, we know that the body is struggling with excessive amount of heavy metals in the system. And this one is usually weak immune system due to trauma and emotional shocks. So it's very, very specific, and it gives us such an indication of where to put our attention to when we do this deep healing. Nerve, for example, this is the central nervous system again asking for support, and peripheral nervous system. And this is big for some people. This is huge, and it's associated with viral family associated with warts. Okay. Then you can see something like stomach terrain, for example. And here we are talking about the healing happening in the stomach area, stomach as an organ, and also duodenum, just this area before large bowels and small bowels, right? And usually it's usually DCT comes up when there is an activity of the viral family associated with hemolytic anemia and some sort of rashes. All members of Salmonella family may be also linked here. and similar types of disorders. But usually people who present or show this ET on a regular basis, those people, they usually suffer from gastric reflux, acid stomach issues in general, also chronic sensitivity in the digestive system, not only in the upper part of the digestive system, but could be IBS and ulcerative colitis as well. Okay, then you see 3 liver parameters, and again 3 because although they affect chest, liver, and gastrointestinal tract, most of them, the reason or the activity that is triggering some sort of asking for correction and triggering healing in those areas is different. For example, for liver 1, it's usually sore liver issues, cold or flu symptoms with unknown cause. For liver 2, it's just general lethargy, exhaustion with unknown cause, like poor appetite and stuff like that. And it's for liver 2, the healing happens in the area of stomach, esophagus, ileum, and motor and sensory cortexes of the body. Okay, and for liver 3, which showed as a priority in this particular scan, it's some healing is happening in the large intestine. But usually associated with the symptoms of exhaustion and liver issues. It could be constipation, it could be liver stagnation, it could be inability to digest fatty foods, it could be some issues with gallbladder, let's say, not enough or insufficient production of bile in gallbladder can cause this. So you can see how broadly we can look at that, okay? Then we have fungus. It was not a priority here. Fungus, bacteria, and general. Now, those ones are talking about particular pathogens, pathogenic activity. But don't forget that pathogens, they're a part of our natural microbiome. And they are involved actually in the healing process. They are there to decompose the ruined tissue. But sometimes when those parameters show up on the scan, it means that they're staying there a little bit longer than expected or needed. And when they're staying there longer, they create other types of symptomatic activity that is not really needed. So we need to take care and correct this with using those pharmaceuticals, or let's say with the fungal infections, let's say, we can do, I usually advise on other methods of, first of all, looking after the detoxification organs, of course, working with the GI tract, taking some antifungal natural remedies, a lot of things we can do on that matter. The same story with the bacteria, because, for example, it's not only which types of bacteria, but it shows general strains of bacteria, but priority doesn't necessarily indicate that the real bacteria is there. The priority indicates that there are some, either the residual bacterial strains are still there, which decompose the healthy tissue already, or it just that, you remember this leftover effect from the pathogen, but the body still, the energetic immune system still attacks the signatures of the bacteria. And then we have this glial cell parameter, which is very, very interesting because this is almost like the backup plan for the body to take information to the DNA. Again, it's not a priority on that particular scan, but when it does show the priority, it means that the deeper healing is happening, and the body really sort of asks for support because it's already started to work with it, started to land energy and information from the backup system of the body, so to say. Usually, this is one thing, and another thing is glial cells is also to do with the lymphatic system of the brain. You know, we have lymphatic system in the body, and then we have lymphatic system, which is the detoxification system of the brain. Usually the system works at night when we're asleep, and very often we need some extra help there. I usually use certain energy medicine routines, lymphatic health massage, and infoceuticals, of course, to help the body to sort of detoxify the brain. And it helps the whole system, of course, and in particular, the restoration of the terrains or in this environmental landscape of the body in dealing with pathogens and so on. Also on the screen, you can see other parameters. They call it energetic stars. We have a separate screen for them here. We will be looking at them in the later tutorials. And those are more compound remedies in NES scan because they combine energetic drivers, so the energy strength of the body, and energetic integrators, the energy flow of the body. But for example, here, I'll just show you, for example, because we are talking about immune system, lymphatic system is part of the immune system as well. You probably know that lymph nodes and lymph glands around the body. So when this one shows up, lights up, it means that the waste removal system of the body is not working properly and needs extra help. Again, what do we do? Infoceuticals is one thing, but lifestyle modifications, clearing up of the burden on the main detoxification organs like liver, kidney, lungs, and skin, doing lymphatic drainage massages yourself or with help of the practitioner, protecting yourself from the electromagnetic radiation, because lymph nodes are very sensitive to electromagnetic radiation, and also looking at the emotions, because again, lymphatic system is very sensitive to emotional overwhelm and trauma and shock in general. And then we have this autoimmune parameter here, and autoimmunity is when there is actually the mistake, when the immune system of the body mistakes an innate internal trigger for something foreign and starts attacking its own cells, own tissues and organs. So again, a little bit about that in the next lecture, in the next tutorial. So this is about that screen. You see how complex and sophisticated it is. It's very important to note here that the number of the ETs, you see it's 0 to 16. The bigger the number, the bigger the angle of the arrow of the energetic distortions in the body. So let's say this one, it's certain amount of percentage in the distortion. The ET, let's say 10, 13, 16, and so on, will be much greater percentage of distortions in an energetic body, okay? What is also important to note that it is based on the scan. For example, today you can show this in the scan, right? But next time you scan, even after the treatment or the correction with infoceuticals, we can see some ETs still showing up, because it takes sometimes 2 to 3 months or even longer to correct the energetic errors in the on the immune level. But very often what I see also is that, for example, we corrected the error, right? And for several months, the person would be free of those errors. And the symptomatic presentation would not, representation would not exist there. But then after a certain amount of time, again, the same errors, the same light bulbs show up on the scan. What it actually means is that it's not that the healing didn't take place in the first place. What it means that, first of all, the deeper healing is happening at the moment, is number one. And number two is that it's actually the healing is happening in different parts of the body, but the phantom or the signatures, energetic signatures, are still present, and the immune system still gets upset and triggers that, okay? So in that case, when that happens, what we usually do, we go back to the core body field. And instead of treating terrains, we start looking back at the geopathic stress, how we exchange energy with the environment, looking at the really sort of basic stuff that we looked in the first tutorial of energy strength and energy source, how we exchange energy with the environment, how we breathe and expel, how we sleep, how we manage stress, our environmental toxicity, and so on. So literally back to basics, okay? This is number one. Then we look at the ability of our organs to accumulate energy and store it for later use. You remember this energy strength. And then we look at how energy and information passes from one organ to another. And when we manage all these, you will see the ETs will not light up very often. And of course, you will start feeling much better, okay? Additionally, just to remember, and Peter Fraser reinforced it in most of his teachings, is that the ET characters are linked to the heart. So every time you want to do a deeper healing, it is imperative to take care of the emotions, okay? Because emotions are buried in the body very deeply, but they do affect and create energetic distortions in the body, which manifest themselves in those, one of those manifestations could be immune system sort of healing processes and over-attacking for something that is not real or is not physical. Okay, I hope I covered what I wanted to cover, and I think I did from my perspective. I'm sure you might have some questions and you know how to find me. And I just want to thank you again for tuning in and trying to sort of educate yourself, maybe for yourself, maybe for somebody who you might think that might be benefit from that. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for now. And I will see you next time. And next time we will be discussing the mind-body connection. What can be seen in the mind-body screens of the NES Bioenergetic WellNES system. Thanks again, and see you next time.